Everyone, welcome. Welcome to our session. It is wonderful to see you here. I am Rabbi Tracy Kaplowitz. I'm the Director of Operations of JWB, Jewish Chaplains Council, and it's wonderful to get to spend this afternoon with you. Welcome to our session. It is entitled, What is Jewish? JCCish, about Days of National Observance. And we're going to have the opportunity to really explore that question with you. This session is being recorded. We understand that some people do not wish to be recorded, in which case you may turn off your camera, though we encourage everyone who's comfortable doing so to stay visible so we can feel as if we're all together. If this is not the session you intended to join, return to Spot Me and select a different session. Joining me today from JCC Association is in support of this session is Janine Acevedo, as well as a very esteemed panel. Janine and my names appear next to the word host or co-host at the top of your panel. So if you have any questions or need any support during our session, then you can just turn to us and private message us. We aspire for every person to feel they belong at ProCon, and we're working to build inclusive spaces in which all people feel welcome, respected, safe, and fully included. To that end, we encourage you to consider the following suggestions as we begin our time together. We invite you to rename yourself in Zoom with your name, agency, and if you're comfortable, adding your preferred personal pronouns. We have enabled closed captioning, and you have the option to turn it off using the button on the bottom toolbar. Please reach out to my colleague or me in chat if there is anything we can do to enhance your learning experience. We're thrilled to offer this multifaceted conference at no cost to our JCCs, which was made possible because of our very generous ProCon 2021 sponsors. Each sponsor believes in the JCC movement and the incredible work JCCs accomplish day in and day out. The representatives are proud to be with us to share their expertise and offerings. We hope you will join us in showing appreciation for their support by visiting their booths in our virtual vendor hall. We also encourage you to connect with them anytime during ProCon 2021 and beyond. During this conference, you can use the chat feature to connect with them, and after the conference, reach out using their contact information as listed. At this point, it is my pleasure to turn everything over to Rabbi Irving Allison, Director of JWB and Vice President at JCC Association.
Well, thank you so much, Tracy. What a pleasure and what a privilege to be here today, not only at ProCon, but joined by our guests and our speakers and all of you. As Tracy said, my name is Rabbi Irving Allison. I'm the director of JWB, Jewish Chaplains Council. I used to say that was the military branch of JCC Association, but our CEO, Daron, never gave me money for tanks and planes. So what our mission actually is to provide a meaningful Jewish life for the men and women in our armed forces. And we do that through the training of chaplains and lay leaders. And you're going to hear a little bit more about some of the stuff that we do. But really, the topic for today has more to do with us as American Jews and how we celebrate our civic observances. So there are three observances throughout the calendar that JCCs and JCC camps and all the other branches of JCC observe. And those are Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Veterans Day. So what I want to do today is I want to begin by just asking you to consider what is the most meaningful part when you in your capacity, your official capacity in the JCC movement, observe any of those holidays. What is special to you? What is it of those holidays that stirs your heart? So let's think about that for just a couple seconds here. So if you could just raise your virtual hand right now. And if somebody wants to share what inspires you the most about any one of these holidays. Let's see, who do we have in our little magic screen here? Okay. Let's see. Can I pick on someone? Okay. You didn't raise your hand, but Rabbi Ron Simons, how you doing? Would you unmute and just tell us a little bit when, in your capacity, when you observe any one of these observances, what is the most meaningful part of it to you?
Well, thanks, Irv, and good to see you and good to be with everybody else. I'm Ron Simons from Pittsburgh, and aside from my general work as Senior Director of Jewish Life, my focus is on the Center for Loving Kindness and Civic Engagement. So the civic engagement is really important because I think that what we're able to do as a town square, speaking about our JCC, but knowing that it spreads out to JCCs across the continent, we have the ability to take the values that are a mix of our Jewish values and our American values, and to put them in the public square in a way that no one else gets to. It doesn't happen in sanctuaries in the way that it happens here. It doesn't happen in town squares, in literal town squares, the way that we can format it and shape it here. And it also serves as a way of coming together with other neighbors to celebrate our connectedness. So for example, Tracy asked us for July 4th to find a neighbor, a partner with whom we can celebrate July 4th in a virtual way. And so we went to one of our strongest partners about 8 minutes away, Reverend Tim Smith of the Center of Life, and we're able to really have a deep conversation about what July 4th means on video. And it wasn't just hip hip hooray. It was, you know, some real good issues that we brought up as well. So I'm grateful for the question, and I'm looking forward to learning more.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And you're exactly right that we are able to draw a line of connection between our Jewish values and the work that we do at the JCC movement. What we want to do today actually is we want to draw one more line to create a triangle, if you will, between these three things. Number one is these very American observances and our pride at what these observances represent: 4th of July Independence and Memorial Day service and Veterans Day, remembering and honoring those veterans. So that's number one. Number two, the values, the Jewish values of our JCC movement. And number three, Jews serving in the military. And I think really that is the perhaps one of the unspoken values that we have in our movement that we want to explore a little bit more. And that is that when you connect these observances and our Jewish values and the fact that Jews today are serving honorably in the military, I think you really have the ability to educate the JCC movement and us as a town square as to what it is to have a life of service as proud Americans and as proud Jews. So that's what we're going to be doing today. You're going to be hearing from some pretty remarkable speakers. And then at the end, we actually have a bonus for you. We're going to give you some great tools to help you transform Memorial Day, Veterans Day, and eventually Independence Day at your JCCs and at your JCC camps. So enough about Irv Allison speaking. I want to introduce to you to our first speaker. Our first speaker today is Major Jordana Malach. She is with the Army National Guard. She's an information operations officer, which in itself is praiseworthy. But what really, in my mind, makes her stand out is that she has served as a Jewish lay leader in far-out places, the latest which were Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan in 2010 and Fort Carson in 2020. And she's actually getting ready to go on deployment. And Jordana, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Wow, I'm a little bit brighter than I thought I would be. But anyway, so it's a pleasure to be here. And I just had a couple of different points that I wanted to make. And in my military service, and I think this isn't a unique, depending on where you are in the country, a lot of times what I experience is that I am the only Jewish person that when I'm interacting with others, I'm the only Jewish person they've met, and perhaps the only Jewish person they're going to meet over the course of their lifetime or their military career. And so I definitely feel a sense of responsibility and obligation in terms of my interactions with others as a member of the Jewish faith. And it can be very lonely sometimes. It can be intimidating. And I found that the support of the larger Jewish community around me is really critical. What I've been in the military for 18 years, and over that time, I've really observed an increase in the voice of Jewish soldiers. And I think that that's directly related to the support that they've gained from the outside Jewish community. I have found too that just like every faith for everybody is a journey, and within the military as well. And being able to connect with a larger Jewish community as my faith has evolved has been critical. I was at Fort Polk, Louisiana before I deployed to Afghanistan. And as the clock sort of wound down, I found myself in a situation where I decided I really wanted to hear the Torah before I left to deploy overseas. And Saturday was approaching, and I found a synagogue 3 hours away, and I got permission, and I drove and I walked in the door of a synagogue I'd never been before because I wanted to hear the Torah before I left. For some reason at that last, the clock was ticking and it became important. And the congregation was incredibly kind and welcoming and nice. And if they thought it strange that a random person had walked in off the street, they certainly didn't act that way. And it was very memorable to me, and I'm incredibly grateful. So my message really is that the connection, you may feel like the Jews in the military are distant or far away, but they're really not. They're in your community, and there's opportunities to connect, and the support is greatly appreciated in whatever capacity that it takes. I did have a few pictures. I don't know if they went up or down or how that works.
Nina's going to share that.
So real quick, just to, I thought it was interesting. I put together just a few photos of, this is, my desk in Afghanistan. And then I integrated it with pictures from my daughter's bat mitzvah that we just recently celebrated. And I thought as I was putting together the pictures, sort of the contrast, you can just scroll through them. I don't have any particular words to share, but just the visuals of some of the pictures and the similarities to, what was happening, and that we build community wherever we are. And that community sometimes looks very different when you're in the military, but it's still, it's still the community that you build that we've all experienced throughout our Jewish faith and observances. And then this was, I was invited from the National Council of Jewish Women to speak, and it was actually in my home state of New Jersey in county. And it was really just an incredibly meaningful experience for me to be able to share that with the community. And I got a lot of positive feedback as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Jordana. And a lot of times when we think about the military, even Jews in the military, we say, well, there's no large military base near my community. And yet time and time again, we're reminded that, our reserve components, our National Guard, they're all over the United States. They are in your community, and in that community, there are Jews. So our CEO for JCC Association, Jerome Krakow, really speaks about the JCC movement being the town square. And certainly we believe that those Jewish personnel in the military, in your communities, are an untapped resource. Number one, they bring these wonderful gifts to your community. And on the other hand, they need and they deserve the benefits of being part of this wonderful Jewish community. And we think that it would benefit both the JCCs and the JCC camps to really reach out to these service members. Just by way of numbers, we think that there's about 1.5% of the military is Jewish. And if you do the math, that turns out to about 10,000 men and women serving in uniform, and another 15,000 family members, because like that wonderful poem by Milton says, they that sit and wait, they also serve. And we're going to talk a little bit more about family members as well. But I want to move on here to our second speaker, and really very, very honored to have him. Because when we talk about Jews serving in the military, we're talking not only about their time in uniform, but what they are able to do after they leave the service. There's a great quote by about Abraham Lincoln that says that Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin and he was a great man, but he was a great man not because he was born in a log cabin, because he got out and went on to do great things. And very much like Abraham Lincoln, how do you like that, Casey? I compared you to Abraham Lincoln. We have our next speaker. We are just so honored to have Representative Casey Weinstein joining us today. Representative Weinstein is the state representative for Ohio's 37th House District in Northeast Ohio. He's a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy, and he served afterwards active duty in the Air Force at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And he also has an MBA from Ohio State, and you could read some of his bio in our on our website. Representative Weinstein, thank you so much for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rabbi. I really appreciate that, and it's wonderful to come together as a community here. Appreciate the opportunity very much. I just 5 minutes before this began, ran into my house from running up from Columbus today. Never quite know how our schedules are going to be, but it tends to work just barely. So today is another example of that. And it's really great to be back with Rabbi Kaplowitz too, who was with me at the Air Force Academy when I was going through there, and was a great resource for us. I think, Rabbi, that must have been a part of your journey and your educational, it was a stop for you.
I started there when I was in rabbinical school, and then I continued afterward.
And that was just, you were such a bright spot and brought so much energy and joy to all of us. So it's wonderful to be to have our paths cross again today. And that's one thing I wanted to talk about, was the importance of that community. And I realized that from day 2 at the Air Force Academy in basic cadet training, when I was 17 years old and was still, on the verge of tears all the time from leaving home. Proud mama's boy here. And so I was missing my mom, and it was like a shock the first 36 hours. And I remember very well that the first moment of real calm that I had was going into the little synagogue in the chapel at the Air Force Academy, which is actually a beautiful little space there. And immediately, walked into smiling faces and open arms, and my fellow Jews there, trying to get a little bit of peace. And those guys and gals who are in that room are friends today. And that was just an immediate bond that we forged. And that continued for me throughout my time at the Air Force Academy. That community was so important. And that also persisted through some religious intolerance challenges that we had at that time, that I ended up speaking out against and actually suing the Air Force about. So it wasn't all easy or fun, and the religious accommodation was not always there. We had to fight for it, but as a community, we banded together and we did that. And that kind of leads to my second point, I think is so important, and it's about representation, and having those communities, as Jordana was saying. Sometimes, we're the only ones there, or there's a small Jewish community, but gathering and creating that space for us to come together is so important. And one way that, it's in my new life as a state representative, I'm the only practicing Jewish member of the Ohio House of Representatives. So I'm going to see if this file will pull up here, because I don't think I sent my pictures ahead of time, but there's a picture of me, and I don't know if it'll come through for you or not, but I led the opening prayer. I asked for like 2 years now to be able to lead one opening prayer that was from the Jewish tradition to kick off a House session. And finally, they relented and let me do that. So I had the opportunity to lead the opening prayer, and it was broadcast on the Ohio channel and ended up getting shared fairly widely through the Ohio Jewish communities and beyond here. And I just think it's so important that we step up and have that person who's willing to organize or willing to speak out and just say, hey, we're here, we're Jews, we are here, and represent our faith. And I've been proud of doing that in the Air Force. In my civilian life, we belong to a temple here in Hudson, Ohio, and as a state representative. So I am so appreciative of the folks who step up and organize and bring us together and represent our community. It is incredibly important to me, both from a cultural, the religious side and just the cultural and tradition side of our people. So those are the two main things I wanted to talk about, and I hope that fit in okay with the panel topic today. But it's an awesome crew, and I'm honored to be here with you.
Thank you so much. Really spot on. So the Marines, and I know you're in the Air Force, but the Marines have a great saying. They say, the Marines do three things, and they do three things very well. Number one is they make Marines. Number two is they win our nation's battles. And number three is they return model citizens. And I think that's true for all the services in the military. And you're certainly proof of that. And I think that's the next line of connection that I would love to point out. And that is not only are our service members in need of that community, but service members who have left the service really have this wealth of experience, this wealth of life's experience that they could bring to your JCCs. And so it would be wonderful for the JCCs to take advantage of this wealth of experience in connecting that triad for our JCCs. Our third speaker today is somebody very near and dear to my heart. There used to be a saying that said, well, the military wanted you to have a family, they would have had one issue to you. And that is not the case anymore. We take care of our families in the military. And it's one more aspect of that the JCCs and the JCC movement really needs to pay attention to as we make these connections. So our next speaker is Commander Matt Kraus. Matt is a career surface warfare officer. He's a graduate of the United States Naval Academy. He served on ships and shore stations here and overseas. He has a couple of masters, and now he's working on a doctorate, only to return to the Naval Academy when he achieves as a permanent military professor. What really makes Matt stand out is not all his achievements, is that he has a wonderful wife and 3 beautiful daughters, and it's an honor to have you. Matt, over to you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Oh, Matt, you got muted, and somebody's got a very
You're
upset
right.
dog. Someone's dog is very upset.
Good call, Casey. Janine, if you don't mind pulling up the slides, that'd be great. And I guess I got muted in my thanks. So thank you, Rabbi Allison. Thank you, Rabbi Kaplowitz. Thank you, Casey and Jordana. Those moving testimonies, quite impactful. Thank you so much. As Irv mentioned, my spouse often tells me I talk too much. So I'm going to stick to some prepared remarks, and I appreciate your attention. On the strength of one link in the cable dependeth the might of the chain. Who knows when thou mayest be tested? So live that thou bearest the strain. It's one of our laws of the Navy. Good day, I'm Matthew Kraus, as Irv said, and I appreciate your attention for the next few minutes as I discuss a dimension of my experience as a Jewish naval officer. Starts with the who. So it's about family. It's about friends. It's about loved ones, fellow Jews, serving at home and abroad, in peace and at war. We are your neighbors, the spouses, parents, and daughters and sons of fellow congregants. We do our best to maintain our heritage and to remain connected to American Judaism. I was going to kick out of this line from The Big Lebowski, 3,000 years of beautiful tradition for Moses to sing perfects. So it's about heritage. Next, please. The what. We serve with honor. As Irv mentioned, we serve globally. Our families serve and sacrifice lives of comfort and familiarity for our national defense, defense of alliances, and our communal interests abroad. Though small in number, we find community, even if only our family attends services, even if we are far from Jewish support, which throughout my career, 14 years overseas, we have been so often. My wife, for example, taught the first Hebrew school program in Europe, leveraging her background, experience, and education to better our Jewish community abroad. Many of you probably know Viktor Frankl, famous philosopher, concentration camp survivor. He talks of the noological dimension, and I talk about the noological dimension of our service members and families. We have our psychological, our somatic or physical, and our spiritual or noological dimension. We say mind, body, and spirit. Support from Jewish organizations provides for our noological well-being, our identity and culture as Jews, keeping Judaism vibrant and alive for the small communities of service members and families far from Jewish centers of learning and community. You probably see a really smiling face there. That's a little over 13 years ago when Rabbi Allison married. It was a very special time. Next, please. All right, now the why, the most important part. It's about family. It's about our children. Jewish overnight camp would be life-altering and life-affirming for our children. I mention that because I know that that's a topic of conversation here. For all children of service members, it would be life-affirming. Jewish programming of any type is culturally and spiritually affirming and vital to supporting the links in our chain of Judaism throughout the generations. We each serve. The service member and his or her family serves our nation. Our families sacrifice more than you can ever imagine. Our families are often forgotten and unmentioned casualty of our service with limited support. And you, the supporters, represent the how, the JCC, the JWB. JCC programming is a vital support component to service members and families to keep our communal Jewish light lit. I thank you for all you've done and all you continue to do to support our Jewish service members, sustaining Judaism for future generations throughout challenging but critical circumstances. In these pictures, you see us traveling in Great Britain, most recently when we were stationed in Europe, and in Belgium with my daughter Dahlia. An auspicious picture indeed in front of that grace. Next, please. And to wrap it all up, this is me meeting my first daughter, Yael, coming back from deployment. She was born, obviously, while I was somewhere in the South China Sea. That's me driving the ship in. And then lastly, Beat Army. I thank you for your time and attention and your current and future support to our military families is just so important, not just to me, but to, as Rabbi Allison mentioned, to everyone who serves our nation and to the service member families who are far from Jewish centers of support. So thank you so much.
Matt, thank you very, very much, not only for today, but for your years and your family's years of service. So these are three stories that we have to share with you today. And I think the themes that are common to all these is, number one, the need for a Jewish community, the need for a community. The second is of service beyond the uniform, that these Jewish men and women wore the uniform and are now embedded into your communities, and what do they need and how can the JCC movement serve them? And third, of course, is the message of families. Believe it or not, here we are in April 2021, and even to this day, there's a very harmful message that I think we have an obligation within the JCC movement to put to rest. And that harmful message is that Jews don't serve. And so I'd like to propose that perhaps by recognizing Jewish service during and through our national days of service, Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Veterans Day, by using images of service members in your marketing, by welcoming Jews through serve-through outreach efforts, you really have a chance to make an impact in the community in changing that that narrative. So if I were to have a vision for the future, it would be this: that every Jewish child in the JCC movement can call to mind the image and the story of a Jew in uniform or of a Jewish veteran. And I think that this is something that we need to aspire to. Thank you so much for your time. And now over to you, Tracy.
So I hope that you're asking yourself the question, working with my JCC, what do I do next? How do I get to a position where I start telling the stories of Jews in uniform? How do I connect to those around me? How do I ensure that the next generation of Jews that we're bringing up inside of our JCCs and our JCC camps and the entire movement are recognizing that they always have the story of Jews who serve, that they keep that image alive in their heads at all times? And so we do have some very good resources available to you that are ready for implementation already. And so, Janine, if you can share your screen. Memorial Day is the next holiday that is coming up. It is a somber day, and you wouldn't necessarily know that from the way that we celebrate it as a country, usually with sales and the like. This is an opportunity for us to take a moment, pause, and acknowledge the losses of those who were killed in action in serving our armed forces. And so what we have for you are a number of resources to support your programming. This is the Memorial Day programming guide. When we finish the presentation today, what you're going to get is a link to this PowerPoint presentation. Each of these pages that I'm showing you now are active links. So you can just press on this picture and you will go straight to our Memorial Day programming guide. This is a great resource to figure out if you want to have a ceremony, if you want to have a Torah study session, if you want to have a any special way to mark the day, connect with local veterans groups, connect with local posts. This is an opportunity to do that. And so the Memorial Day programming guide gives you those resources. Last year, we started because of COVID, and I think we might continue for the long term, the National Jewish Community Observance of Memorial Day. Last year, when we ran the program, about 18,000 people engaged with it. This year, we will continue to run a similar program. This is going to take place online as a Facebook premiere on Sunday evening, May 23rd at 7 o'clock. All of your marketing departments will receive information about it. And it's a very easy way for you via social media to just simply connect to the program, go live with our program. And this is an opportunity for you to hear from the families. Our theme for this year is Together in Memory, and we'll be hearing from the families of Jewish fallen heroes who have were killed in action since September 11th. So we'll be hearing from their families, we'll be hearing from leaders of the Jewish community, where they are making a very clear case that it is time for the Jewish community to open their doors and embrace our service members, their families, and our veterans. And so hopefully you'll connect to this program and be able to be part of that change. Over the summer, you have Independence Day. And every camp I know observes Independence Day, even a day camp, which is closed on Independence Day, observes it, the days prior, the days following, and certainly our sleepaway camps are open during Independence Day. And so if your programming thus far has really been more about the fireworks, the square dancing, the hot dogs, however your camp celebrates, this is an opportunity for us to delve a little deeper and to ask, what are those Jewish values that connect Independence Day to the American Jewish story and to the American Jewish story of service? And so these are activities that were written last year. Each of these is an active link. The first one on the left side is for early childhood. And so this is even for JCCs, not just for JCC camps, These are all great ways to engage kids in the questions of what are the Jewish values about freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, all of these connected values with the American heritage. And there is a program that we are wishing to run this year, and that is on Independence Day or in the days surrounding. We want every camp, either in person or virtually, to bring in a service member, a Jewish service member, because we believe that that is going to be an opportunity for each camp to really make it real for your campers. This is the opportunity for them to say, I know now a Jewish service member. I know the story of Jewish service. It becomes much more real. And so this is a survey. After I'm done, I'm gonna put the survey link in the chat. But again, on the PowerPoint, each of these links is live. So as soon as we get the PowerPoint, you will access each of these links and you'll have the activities and you'll have the survey. On the survey, you'll answer questions, let us know what day do you want a Jewish service member to come speak, or a Jewish veteran to come speak, what the audience is, where you're located, whether it's virtual or in person, and we will make this happen. And if you're, Jen, I see, you're by touching a lot of parts of the Tucson JCC and the camping and the like, and you say, you know what, I need 3 people, let us know, and we'll see what we can do about getting you some more people. So that's the kind of interaction we really want to have, that the visual that every Jewish child going through our early childhood, our camping, and throughout our youth and teen programming, that they know that there are Jews who serve because they've interacted with them, they've asked their questions, they've wondered, and they've really gotten to explore this. And I think for us, this is really the beginning. This is the foundation upon which we are going to continue to build and grow and expand the relationship between JWB and the JCC movement. If you know the long history, the JWB came first and birthed the JCC movement. Now, over time, the connections have sometimes become less, less clear and less obvious. And now it's time for us to rebuild those connections so that it becomes very clear that the JCC movement has a clear and distinct role in supporting our Jewish service members. So we're at the beginning of that, and let's continue to build and grow that. So maybe you're asking yourself the question, it's more than just presentations. I really need my kids to be engaged in some way with Jewish service members in a way that they're giving back, that they're doing something active. And so for that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. Sarah is the founder of Kosher Troops. She is an extremely busy person because she is making sure that our troops, no matter where they're serving, are getting connected back to the Jewish community by getting all sorts of packages and resources around the holidays. So I'm going to pass it to Sarah, and before I do, I'm going to ask Ron, you have a question?
Yeah, so I love all of this. I love bringing it to camps and having that aspirational mandate and whatnot. Might I suggest that in the same way that you're doing Memorial Day as a centralized event, that you create some kind of a centralized event for the camps, especially for the summer camps, the overnight camps. I'm not even allowed to go to our overnight camp this summer because of COVID restrictions. So if you can get the coolest, most popular, youngest, most Jewishly connected service person who can represent at all of our camps via video, I think that would be absolutely amazing.
We can certainly approach it that way. That's easy for us to approach it that way. We'll see if that's something that is best for the camps, whether to do it unified or to do it dispersed. But no matter what, we can make sure that if you have a video link, that we will be in your camp this summer, definitely. Okay, Sarah, let me pass it to you.
Hi, how are you? Okay, so my name is Sarah First, as you was introduced. I am one of the co-founders of Kosher Troops. Ava Hamburger is my My partner, she was not able to make it for today, so I'm making this little presentation. So Kosher Troops is a nonprofit organization that sends care packages to the Jewish American troops stationed all over the world. And we do this to help them celebrate their traditions and their holidays. About a little bit over 13 years ago, I can't believe it, when we were working on my daughter's bat mitzvah, we were wondering what chesed project to do. Since her birthday was so close to Purim, we came up with the idea of sending mishloach manot to the deployed Jewish American troops. I first contacted West Point because I live very nearby, and they advised me to call the Jewish Welfare Board in New York, who gave me a list of deployed chaplains. One of them was Rabbi Schulman, who has been very instrumental explaining the ins and outs of sending packages to the troops. When we first started sending the packages, he was in Iraq. We have followed him throughout the years in Korea, Afghanistan, and Germany, where he's presently, actually he's not even in Germany anymore, he's in Israel, but supposedly his base is in Germany. By the time we were ready to celebrate the bat mitzvah, we had about 150 names. My daughter and her friends prepared one box for each name. We filled them up with all kinds of nosh, the usual Purim stuff, Sudoku books, special antimicrobial socks, etc. We were able to do this through the generosity of family, friends, and neighbors who donated either the money or product that we sent. People were so excited about this idea, and the service members were so thankful when they received the packages that we just couldn't stop there. I thought to myself, if this was so important for them on Purim, what about Pesach? It's such a hard holiday to celebrate away from home. So we sent packages for Pesach, and then came Rosh Hashanah and the rest of the holidays, which of course we couldn't forget. At the beginning, I started out with the notion of adopt a soldier. Several of my friends and neighbors who got involved, including Eva Hamburger, who was so excited about the idea, especially because she has 3 boys. Eva got on board and pushed for the idea, and we made it into a nonprofit. We then found a lawyer friend who did us the pro bono work. Once we became what it was known as Kosher Troops, we had more recognition out there, and it was easier to ask for donations. Companies like Osem, Kedem, Manichevi, Strides, etc. have been supporting us for years. We send the staples for each holiday. For example, for Hanukkah, we send Hanukkah gelt, donuts, chocolates, challah, candies, challah, dreidels, etc. We also send Shabbat packages, which contain gefilte fish, matzo ball soup, challah, grape juice, candles, a kiddush cup, and some more nosh. One of my hardest jobs is actually to keep in touch with the troops that are deployed and to keep tally of how many they are at any given time. Remember that most of them are deployed between 6 to 9 months, and whatever list we may have, for example, for Rosh Hashanah is not the same for Hanukkah. At this point, we have been sending packages to an average of 1,200 to 1,500 troops per holiday. That's the average number of deployed Jewish troops, although varies from time to time. The approximate number, as Rabbi Allison mentioned before, is about 10,000 in the general military. Never in my wildest dreams did I think it would become what it is today. So far, we have sent thousands of packages to our Jewish brothers and sisters in the military all over the world. It is not just the food we send, but what it means to them to receive something from a total stranger that actually thought about them. Imagine when you were in camp and received goodies from home. This is so much more than that. When we were in camp, we received packages from home, from different parts of from parents, grandparents, perhaps an aunt. This is coming from Jewish communities in different parts of the country who care about our troops that are in harm's way somewhere on the other side of the world, or just in a basic training back here in America. Hakarat Tov is one of the mitzvot we try to get in our communities involved in. We get children from different schools and camps to write letters to our troops. They love receiving beautiful letters and cards from children from all over the country. At the same token, our troops are grateful of what we do. Not only do they send meaningful emails with pictures, they also come to visit us when they're in the New York area. For me, the best part of doing what I do in Coach Troops is to see the goodness in people. When we watch the news or read the newspapers, all we hear is about different kinds of crimes being committed. With Kosher Troops, I get to see how generous and supportive people really are. One time we received an envelope with a cut up newspaper article about Kosher Troops with a dollar bill. It meant so much to me. Someone actually cared enough to send even if it was just $1. It's a message that they really care. A few years ago, we had a preschool in Riverdale make a triathlon. It was a triathlon fundraiser for our troops, and a group of professional singles in Arizona got together to fundraise for us. These are just a few of the many groups or individuals that have been involved in one way or another in helping Kosher Troops. We also had a group of DC organized by Rabbi Teitelbaum, another one in New Jersey by Rabbi Lewis, making packages. We thank God, many large donors that provide us for 99% of the supplies that we send out to the troops. It is incredible to know that most of the times, with just one phone call or one email, we get such a positive response. People are good and they want to help, especially our selfless service members. Some of the stories we have from Kosher Troops are as follows. One time we had a soldier ask us to help him keep the box anonymous. He didn't want he was working with Afghani people, so he didn't want them to know that he was Jewish. After we sent him a box of goodies, he replied with a thank you note that the following anecdote. He was sitting down and enjoying the rogalachs that we sent him. When two other soldiers approached him and asked him, "Is that a rogalach? We're also Jewish." From then on, they spent on many Friday nights together as they could. A recent email received in the middle of Passover after this Durham couldn't have been nicer. I want to let you know the Passover packages arrived on the USS Gonzalez yesterday. None too soon. We had a challenging Passover because many of our supplies did not arrive in time, but we managed to have a small Seder. Our Jewish sailors had something arrive from family, but yesterday they ran out of matzah and they were facing the remaining Passover day without foods kosher for Passover. We were actively planning for them in our galley. Then your packages arrived on yesterday's Olier. What a blessing from God for our sailors. I know how much it meant to them because my roommate is one of the sailors who went to bed last night and woke up this morning to a special package of Passover food. My enlisted counterparts and I opened all of your packages and prepared special boxes for each Jew abroad. Thank you for being a part of a miracle for them. This is another story. To be a religious Jew in Jewish surroundings is difficult enough, but to be an Orthodox Jew in the United States Army is even more difficult. Being placed in combat 8,000 miles from home complicates it even more. So there I was, with 9 battle buddies in a mountaintop in the eastern Afghanistan with just enough food, water, and ammunition to function. We were constantly working in the heat of the day, building fortifications, improving our positions, patrolling our perimeters, repelling attacks at night. There are no words to describe the sheer misery and despair. Supplies and mail were few and far between as our logistics convoys were regularly attacked as they tried to reach us. Being observant, I made to do with some leftover matzah from Passover and I brought with me and some bags of tuna with the MREs. Shabbat was marked mostly by shelling and counterfire instead of candle lighting and song. And then one morning it all changed. A pair of Chinooks dropped out of the sky with a pallet of supplies. On that pallet was a box full of mail. We all scrambled to offload the pallet and then began sorting it, savoring every moment. The grenades, belted ammunitions, and gun were carefully inventoried and divided up. Equipment was broken down, cleaned, and lubricated. Finally, we looked at our mail. The envelopes were mostly from school children's friends and family. The boxes were then sorted. With 9 soldiers and about 20 boxes, we're all curious who had some special sending them to all those packages. By the time we finished sorting them, my pile totaled 12 boxes. Curious, I looked at the attention label. 4 were from family with canned foods. The other 8 were from Sarah First at Kosher Troops. I excitedly opened my packages to take inventory and begin rationing the food. My mind was blown. Every package had a complete Shabbat meal of challah, gefilte fish, horseradish sauce, hummus, tahina, grape juice, and chicken soup, along with assorted treats. Some also had dried salami, gourmet coffee, cheesecakes, and other kosher foods.
Sarah, I apologize. We really have limited time and we have one more speaker, but I do have to say this. During my first deployment to Iraq, 9 months, your food sustained me. So thank you so much for your wonderful presentation and everything you do. So before I introduce our last speaker, I want to say that you can't argue with success. And our next speaker really exemplifies success when it comes to connecting military to the Jewish community. So our next speaker is Buddy Hoyt. So Buddy is Executive Director of Camp Mountain High at JCC Camp since 2017. But most importantly, he has been tremendously effective in connecting his camp to the local Jewish communities of San Diego and Camp Pendleton. We are just so excited to have you. Buddy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rabbi Allison. I just want to tell everybody first, my own personal connection is my dad was a flight engineer on a B-17 during World War II. And as you may hear, I live near Miramar Air Force Base, and they're running F-35s today, so it may get noisy every 5 minutes. So I'm the executive director of Camp Mountain High. Gene, if you want to start the slides anytime, that's great. We were created in 2006 here in San Diego by a community that wanted to have a camp for kids from San Diego, and we're about 70% San Diego minded. And it's a traditional JCC camp, you know, the summer programs. And for some campers, Camp Mountain High is their only Jewish experience. And for others, it's a reinforcement of their ongoing commitment to Judaism. Our overall belief was that children should be able to attend regardless of their ability to pay. And to that point, over 50% of our campers receive scholarships from $250 to nearly full tuition. And in 2013, we noticed that some of our scholarship applicants were coming from active military families in our county. And at that time, we just included them in the regular scholarship process, but we began to notice a difference in their circumstances. There was a study done by a local university here that said that active duty personnel numbered 143,000 here in San Diego. It's actually home to, they say, 1 of every 6 U.S. sailors. Our other large contingent is Marines. And the average household income is only $56,000 when you average across all the levels. So we knew that these families definitely needed some extra help. I came on the board in 2011 as the treasurer. I became the executive director in 2017. Was just a poor way to retire from my other job, but so we discovered that these kids they have these economic issues along with deployed parents, and they're moving from base to base over their service lives. The children, you can see the list on there. I don't need to read the list, but these kids move. There's just nothing that's connected them to their families, and we felt that it was important that we try to reach out to these people. It's something that's just in my DNA because of my dad, but we felt it was important because they're such a major part of our community. So in 2014, we started specifically targeting military families with a 75% scholarship, which along with other discounts and other outside scholarships like One Happy Camper and things, brought the cost of the family to $145 a family to attend camp. But they were internally funded. And we gradually rose from 4 campers to 20 campers in 2019. And of course, we didn't have camp last summer. But we did a survey as a result of that 2019 summer. And briefly, the point of these 3 boxes really is that the years of active service, you can see that we ranged. We've got one family that actually lives around the corner from me that's been in 31 years. The majority of the families that responded were in the 19 to 23 years. But their years in San Diego, we had families with just 2 families with 1 to 3 years, some 6 to 9. But the biggest thing that we noticed was the number of times moved. It says years in families. It should be times in families. But 3 to 4 times, 5 families have moved. 6 to 9 times, 2 families have moved. It just shows that connecting to your community, that's what's affecting these kids. They don't have that permanent connection to Judaism or to the community at large. So in the survey, we asked some questions, and if you'd flip to, there we go. So I'm not going to, you can read the slide, but what's added to the green box was that they had to be so intentional about finding community for their family. They just really had to work hard, as we heard earlier. The second one, the blue one, they wanted their kids to have a Jewish experience, but they had trouble finding a Jewish home at each new location. It's hard to start over at a new synagogue, and there were no synagogues at their overseas assignments. Constantly, you'll see in these quotes that cost is a huge factor. If we go to the next one, has the camp had an impact on your children's observance? And overall, the answer was overwhelmingly yes. The one thing I can add to the quotes that are already there is the person in the green also added that they came home singing songs, telling stories, looking forward to returning next year. A third person added, I've noticed that the kids learn prayers, songs, words, traditions, and they identify with being Jewish, which is what our goal is. Our goal is to want them to identify and to connect. The next one is what benefits have they seen? And this quote that's in green added on that's not shown is that the camp, there were hundreds of kids just like them. They didn't need to explain themselves. It was just understood and embraced. For one of my children, this was particularly important as he struggles with being Jewish. We find that one of the things that's happened with this is we have not only connected the kids together, but as a result of connecting the kids, we connected the families, and not just military family to military family, but actually one of my closest friends now is a Navy captain who, as I mentioned earlier, lives around the corner. We've become very close, and my daughter happens to be his daughter's bar mitzvah tutor. I mean, it's just amazing the connection that happens. And then lastly, they said, finally, what would you add about your children's experience? The person in blue said attending CMC had been an extremely positive experience for our daughter. And then it says what it says in blue. And then she added, I'm thankful for the military scholarship, which gave us the means to continue to send her to camp. Our goal is we're really gratified by all of these comments, and it's just really moved us to do more. Actually, I noticed my grant writer is on the call on this conference because we just applied for a $50,000 scholarship to get some additional military aid so that we don't have to fund this ourselves, that we can use some outside funding to do this, because we're taking away from operational funds. We give out probably almost $300,000 a year in scholarship money. So that's a lot of fundraising. So I guess my real point is that it created connections between our community. And as a result, in our camp family is a family that has an organization called Workshops for Warriors, which helps people transition. They've been very much helping us to create an active military 3-day weekend at camp during our retreat season outside the summer, underwritten through sponsors and donors, to provide an opportunity for the whole family to come up. Our goal is to get about 225 people. It would represent about maybe 65 families who would come up for a weekend. Rabbis Allison and Kaplowitz introduced me to Rabbi Yonina Creditor, who just finished her 2 weeks of training as a chaplain with the Navy SEALs here in San Diego. So I'm really looking forward to that relationship to move it along. But we want to open up ourselves to the whole community and not even just the children. And finally, what I want to add is just this story about Jacob and Avery. I know both of these. I'm going to get all kvel here. But they came in 2014 and then redeployed to Japan. Jacob had to study for bar mitzvah through the Jewish Welfare Board. We connected them with a chaplain in Japan so he could study for his bar mitzvah. They've been coming back to camp. Somehow the military is able to assist them flying here. I really don't know how that happens. And so we get their scholarship. And Jacob's coming back as a counselor. He was a counselor in training in 19. He's coming back as a counselor. I think Avery's got a job local in Japan this summer. But it's just a great success story. They are loved by our campers. They're just totally connected. He pretty much takes charge of connecting our other military kids and runs that little special group that we have. And we are just a better camp for their participation. It broadens it. Our kids know who military kids are when we do special things. And I'm looking forward to learning more about the July 4th program that you're offering to see if we can connect that in this summer. And that's it.
Well, that's not it. That's a lot.
Yeah. It's
buddy,
fun.
you've been a great partner for us, and I really hope that you've kind of inspired our other attendees to just think big, and please know that JWB is always here to help you and even to help you with some of the fundraising if that is necessary.
Thank
Tracy, over to you.
Okay, well, thank you, all of our presenters. It's been so wonderful hearing from you, and I hope that everyone's enjoyed it. I hope we really inspired you to think about all the different ways that we can connect our JCC movement with our service members. I have a few brief announcements coming up. Are the Excellence Showcase from 4 to 5 Eastern Time, 1 to 2 Pacific. In each 30-minute session, your colleagues will share JCC initiatives in programming, staff recruiting and retention, visionary management, or marketing and media, offering a great opportunity to learn about initiatives that can be replicated in your JCC community. Find more information on SpotMe. And a quick reminder that the virtual vendor hall will be open again tomorrow, Thursday, from 1:45 to 2:45 Eastern Time. Okay, and they'll be available for live, engaging, and informative video breakouts and product demos and more. So thank you again for joining us today. Please be in touch. Let us work together to support your community in connecting with military families and service members. So have a wonderful